What's up, beautiful souls? Shout out to the sponsors for this podcast. And I want to shout out Practical Peptides. So we're excited to bring doctor prescribed, pure pharmaceutical grade compound peptides delivered straight to your door for human consumption with easy to use instruction, educational materials, and a free consult. So the process is, if you're interested in peptides such as semaglutide, which is our number one seller, which is literally helping people lose weight, decrease blood sugar levels, and literally increase self-esteem. It's a number one bestseller. Literally all you have to do is go to practicalpeptides.com and you can select the product. You'll have a 15-minute educational with amazing Danielle, who's going to give you all of the education, give you all of the information you need. The compounding pharmacy will literally have it shipped to your door, ready to go with everything you need to use it within, 2 to 3 days. And so that's one of our best sellers. People are using NAD for energy, and that's kind of showing so much promise in brain health and decreasing inflammation with addiction. So, and then also my favorite is Focus Blend. It's a nasal spray, which helps give you kind of clarity. So check out practicalpeptides.com. Use code Dr. Lee for 10% off. And second sponsor is transcendencementalhealth.com. And we're super excited. We're having monthly retreats. And if you haven't heard about the Heart Protocol, really excited to share that with you. It's the protocol that I've been facilitating for the last 4 years. And for me, it's the safest, most direct, loving, powerful connection to my higher self. And that's priceless. And for about 3, 4, 5 hours, you connect with your higher self. You have an eye mask on, you listen to music. And I mean, the things that are happening, some people call miracles in Western science, but we call it science. And it's amazing who your soul is. So badass, so beautiful, so powerful. And if you want to connect to that part of you, receive clarity, for your mission, a DNA upgrade. Sometimes we're seeing healings, things like that. In the middle of a psychedelic revolution, I feel like it's one of the safest, most powerful, most consistent ways, bypasses the darkness, the crunchy, connects you directly to your higher self. So if that's something that interests you, go to transcendencementalhealth.com, click begin your journey, and we'd love to see you at an upcoming retreat. So shout out to our sponsors. All right, here we go, on to the episode. What's up, beautiful souls? Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Today we are going to talk about a journey to enlightenment, the most epic love story ever written, the return of at least 1 billion souls back into the loving arms of Source. But before we jump in, I'm going to go ahead and set the frequency. Rasa Ira Christ Art. Around this podcast now, every single person that is listening, we surround you in the Rasa Ira Lotus for Christ Art. Around this podcast now. By the love of original eternal source consciousness field, we have come. Setting a barrier now, the frequency of unconditional love on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual plane around this podcast in all dimensions and all timelines. By the truth of original eternal source consciousness field, we stand, and now anoint my throat chakra that I might speak the truth, for the truth will set us free. And all the soul wants to be free, and we are free indeed. Freedom. By the power of original eternal source consciousness field, we fly. 144,000 have arrived. Stars in my mind have aligned. And so we invite each one of us who is listening to step into our power, a unique oscillatory, vibratory reflection of Almighty Living Creator Source, unapologetically ourselves. By the grace of original eternal source consciousness field, I now sanctify and renew this podcast under the divine protector of the original eternal life founders races, Elohai, Seraphai, Brahma, Melchizedek, Cloister, Emerald, Amethyst, and Gold Order, which I am a level 6 Ikar for the liberation of all sentient beings, fulfillment of the Emerald Covenant, creation of a new global paradigm of mental wellness. Thy kingdom, queendom is coming now. Thy will is now being done in this podcast episode on earth as it is in the highest heavens. Taisha into Doe, Taisha into Doe, Taisha into Doe. Spoken as it is stated, and so it is done. Rasa Crush Around this episode now. So, what's up, beautiful souls? If I had one message that I keep wanting to repeat for my own DNA and for yours, it's take a look inside and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole damn time. And there's no force in source. For there to be love, there has to be a choice. I'll repeat that. There's no force in source. For there to be love, there has to be a choice. And free will choice is the greatest gift ever given to humanity. We are co-creating what I like to call the most epic love story ever written, with every thought, word, attitude, with every creation. Anything that we're creating, we're co-creating. Our DNA is projecting our hologram. The more thoughts we have, if we have consistent thoughts, these thoughts are energy. They spin a different way than what we're used to seeing, but they materialize, if you want to say, on the morphogenetic field, and they start condensing if you think it enough. And literally, these thoughts become belief systems, and thoughts actually become things. And so we are co-creating with every word we speak. And we're entering into this new period. We're exiting out of this dark age, this 26,500 year cycle, where humanity's memory was wiped and we forgot who we are. We got disconnected from our soul, our 456 stranded DNA. We went through the dark ages where the religious political environment, where the Roman Catholic Church, where the Jehovah's Collective, where the Metatron Collective, literally, and the Illuminati, if you want to call it, influenced the entire system to the point where the medical system, the educational system, the religious system, and every system that is here on earth has been, over the last 26,500 years, been infiltrated and being infused with a system that is based on third dimensional dense structures, which is based on a triangular structure, which is based on every step down the triangle knows less and less and less and less and less. And there's been this hierarchy. And it's all because of, these souls, if you want to call it, who long time ago chose, through repeated free will choice, to cut themselves off from the source of all energy. And if you're cut off from the source of all energy to remain immortal, even if you have 11 strands of DNA, you have to parasitize energy. And so this has been going on for humanity for the last 26,500 years. But what we're transitioning now into a new age, an age of Aquarius. We're transitioning now into what some people call the golden age. And we are, if you want to call it, the heartbeat on a return cycle to source, the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat, the core frequency of Mother Earth is increasing. And what does increased frequency do? Higher oscillation entrains lower vibration. So as the frequency of Mother Earth increases, everything living on Mother Earth is also connected to the core of Mother Earth. Everything lifts in frequency as well. And as the frequency starts increasing, what does light do? Light exposes darkness. There's only a shadow. If it's in the shadow, there's no light. So as the higher frequency starts rising upon planet Earth over the next 26,500 years, it's going to start exposing and shedding light on pedophilia, shedding light on the medical system, big pharma, shedding light on the financial system, the political system. And slowly these old models of, if you want to call it, control and manipulation and a lack of free will choice is slowly going to start crumbling, and people are going to start to have a choice, because the greatest gift ever given to humanity is free will choice. Once you know, you cannot not know. And divine justice is right on time. And so I like to call it the most epic love story ever. And every human being, there's never been a greater time to be alive, in my humble opinion, than the next 5 to 10 years that are going to come here. A catalyzation of remembrance, a catalyzation of, if you want to call it, awareness, love revolution, I like to call it. And so with that being said, it's been this long, epic journey, man. And when a soul chooses to come to Earth, It's a choice. And so some people in my ceremony actually are taken back because there's no time, only consciousness moving through different densities. And they remember and they're shown that moment where they're existing at it. Maybe it's on a different planet. Maybe it's existing as a ascended master. And they decide through free will choice the rules of Mother Earth. There's a collective consciousness, and when you decide through free will choice to come to Mother Earth, you are agreeing to abide by the collective universal laws that govern this 15-dimensional universal time matrix. Charles Eisenstein has a really beautiful kind of like anime where he's like, all these souls are gathered together and they're being told, you're going to forget who you are. You're going to go to this strange planet. Your soul's going to come into this physical body and it's going to be dense. And then the animation goes on to portray that as we start waking up, but there's going to be this universal force. Some Christians call the Holy Spirit, consciousness, all that is, what Jesus called the Father, pervading into all things. And slowly we're going to start waking up one by one, one by one, one by one. And we're going to remember who we are. We're going to start finding our soul family. When one soul comes, it becomes 12. And so we didn't come alone, and we are starting to remember. We're starting to reconnect to our super conscious mind, the 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA, which for the last 26,500 years, there was a memory wipe, and we were cut off from this. And we were martyred and burned at the stake, and all these things that people called pagan because there was power in it, which people are scared of what they don't understand. We're slowly starting to understand that actually, you are who you've been looking for. You are the angel. You don't need an intermediary between you and God anymore. And so when the soul decides to come, the stream of consciousness splits down into 12 through electromagnetic fission on different timelines. And it's born, and literally from days, I believe, for the first 32 days of conception, when the egg and the sperm meet, it's the parent's light body that are contributing to, if you want to call it, creating the human form, the body. And if there's a frequency match and you choose, literally the soul gets to look at all of the different sacred wombs, all of the different parents, and they get to choose. And like literally in my ceremony, people have popped out of their soul pops out, their consciousness pops out, and they're shown, hey, there's different life paths. In this one, you're going to be a murderer. Someone has requested for them to be murdered. In this one, you're going to learn about patience. In this one, you're going to be a light worker and you're going to activate all these different types of people. And in this one, and they get to choose what their life path is. Free will choice. There's people in the ceremonies who remember that, and there's people in the ceremony where they pop out and they're given an opportunity to either mission upgrade, down, whatever. It's a choice. There's no force in source for there to be love. There has to be a choice. And then when one soul determines, hey, you know what? I'm going to choose that womb. And then the parent's light body builds up the body for the first 20 to 30 something days. And then that incoming spirit or soul, right, it becomes more and more dense, and it literally drops its frequency into where the sperm and egg have been fertilized for a specific purpose, which is stored in the superconscious mind, which is the 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA, which is a bandwidth of frequency. So you have deep purpose. And that purpose is to simply be you and deprogram and unlearn everything that is not you. And so as that, if you want to say that soul comes in, if there's, like, let's just say there's a free will choice every step of the way. Let's just say that, hey, you know what? Sometime during that time, that soul or the little baby that is inside of the forming egg and sperm decides, hey, you know what? Nah, I'm out. If there's a frequency mismatch and that body can, that's what people call a miscarriage. Death is not real. There's no energy is neither created or destroyed. So in an essence, like, the soul, the spirit, if you want to call it, the spirit never dies. And so if there's a fertilization, and then there's a continuous choice, right? So the first, we know that the mother's thoughts are transferred to the baby's mental body. The mother's emotions are a part of the emotional body of the baby. And there's a very specific, amazing science of how that embryo splits, and quantum morphogenetic physics goes into all of it. It's amazing, this wisdom. And, actually, literally on the day that they're going to be born, for example, my son chose to come 3 weeks early on April 25th, Taurus, right? There's a very specific thing where they understand on this day I'm going to be born, and the planetary influences exactly on the day you were born were aligned. Exactly. Jupiter was positioned here, growth, expansion, generosity, food, all these different things, right? Saturn, the Lord of discipline, the Lord of karma, right? And all these different planets, Mars, the god of war, right? Where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they're all positioned in a certain way, and the planetary influences shine down upon you. And then you're born on a specific date, which, according to the wisdom you study, it's Sagittarius or it's Taurus or whatever it is, right? And the stars are literally aligned perfectly to help you have the personality, planetary influences to accomplish what you came here to do. You're going to have those personality traits, right? And that's why by understanding the stars, you can understand your soul in this lifetime. And there's many different ways you can do that. And so you come in, and literally, what is an indigo child? An indigo child is a child who comes in with their 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA already online, which is their soul is already online. And that's why you'll meet these little kids, literally like 1 or 2, 3 years old, and they're already drawing pictures of ancient Egypt. They're coming in hot like a fajita. They remember already. And like my little kid, like if I'm out of alignment and I try to hold him or do eye gazing with him, he's so in tune. Like he can look at me and know right away if I'm out of alignment. These kids are coming in hot, and their 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA is already online, and they're coming in with a purpose to be themselves. But there's never been a greater time. And right now, there's ancient souls who have never been born before. So many mothers have cleansed their karma, 7th to 11th generation karma, done the healing, done the breath work, done the yoga, done the plant medicine, done all of the healing, and prepared their wombs for these ancient souls that have never been born before to choose that womb. And it's simultaneous. You have to remember, when that soul comes in, it's coming in on different timelines. And so there's a verse in the Bible that says the dead in Christ will rise first. Christ comes from the word Christ. And so actually sometimes people are popping out of the ceremonies that I facilitate every once in a while, and they're saying, hey, I was there with Christ. Hey, you were there with Christ. I was just there. And literally during the ceremony, your consciousness leaves the body and you're on that timeline. And when I was waking up, I remember exactly who I was on that timeline. The cellular memory, it lives inside, and it's happening simultaneously. And there's a verse that says the dead in Christ will rise first. One of my brothers popped out of the ceremony and said, yo, I was at the Last Supper. So these soul fractals, I remember when I was first waking up, I was out in LA, and this, after ayahuasca ceremony, this very kind of nerdy looking Caucasian, really kind brother comes up to me, and he's like, hey, I'm Elijah, reincarnated. And if you look in the Bible, it's all in there. When they asked Jesus, like, hey, when's Elijah coming back? And he said, he's already here. And so some people will pop out of their ceremonies and they'll be like, the Knights Templar, that timeline. The Egypt timeline, they're literally going there, changing the past, speaking in an ancient tongue, and breaking parasitic contracts that no longer serve humanity that happened in Egypt, right? And so we're literally changing the past. We're simultaneously existing on multiple timelines. We chose to be here. We chose to be in this body. We chose our parents. On the day we were born, the stars were perfectly aligned, and the planetary influences, when we're oscillating, the positive planetary influences are with us, generosity, discipline, all these different things. And when we're vibrating low, the challenging aspects of the planetary influences are with us, but they're always working for our good. Everything is a lesson, a blessing, and opportunity. Everything is a lesson, a blessing, and opportunity. The universe is always working for us, not against us. And the Bible says God is always working for the good of those who love. And eventually, if you continue on this path of consciousness, you're going to find out that it's all love. I am love. That's why when Moses asked God, "Who are you? Show me your glory," he said, "I am that I am. I am. I am light. I am dark. I am strong. I am weak. When I am weak, I am strong." And the great paradox of existing on this planet. And so we choose, and on the day we were born, we come out. And man, what a crazy thing to be this eternal spirit living as an ascended master and decide, yo, I'm coming to earth. Why? What's the sacred why? Because if the sacred why is strong enough, the what becomes easy. If you know why you're doing it, man, it's because I love my kid. I love my kid so much. I'm gonna go to work every single day, and I'm gonna do it because what I'm doing, the what becomes easy if the why is strong enough. The intention changes everything. The sacred why. I mean, they did a study, right? A scientific study where two maids were going to work. And they literally measured all of this, their chemicals and levels of happiness and all this stuff like that. And they were doing the exact same job, but one of them was going in with the intention, man, I get to clean. I get to make this space beautiful. I get to do this and it provides for my family. I'm blessed to. And the other one was just going in, damn it, like I gotta clean, I gotta do this, I gotta make money, I have to. And actually the frequency and the energy coming from both of them and the job of satisfaction is completely different. The length of life, the longevity, everything is different. You're doing the exact same thing, but the sacred why are you doing it? That's the magnetic frequency that exists between matter. It's the intention, it's the sacred why. And if the sacred why is strong enough, the what becomes easy. And we got to choose. And so there's a thing called quantum fetal integration where you literally remember through a meditation a technique before you came to earth and why. And you're starting to recall these things and what it felt like to leave your spirit family and to descend into the darkness, into earth. What did that feel like to leave, to be branched off? The great trauma when source split itself, the first trauma when source split itself into many, many, many different forms. To answer the great question, who am I? Because it had a desire to experience itself in many forms and to understand itself better, to know itself better, to expand the knowledge of the one. And it's because of this great love for source, creator, the unspeakable name, whatever you want to call it, the great spirit, this great love for source that so many of us ancient ones continue to come back over and over and over again, because earth is a very unique place where source has allowed duality. Source has allowed for there to be the illusion of separation. And it's gotten pretty fucking dark over the last 26,500 years. Adrenochrome, killing the little children, I'm not even going to go into it, but it's real. I mean, like, for a lot of people, it's real. And for the last 26,500 years, it's been dark. But because of this great love of source, because we want to know, because literally he who has been forgiven much can love much. She who has been to the darkest of the darks can appreciate the light all the more. So some of the most ancient souls actually decide to come and be born to certain types of parents who they know they're going to experience trauma from, who they know they're going to be raped by, who they know that there's 7 to 11 generations of Holocaust trauma that lives in that DNA, because this great love of source that they understand that they are, and they know they're going to forget who they are. That's insane. So they're born, and literally as they're being born, like, isn't that crazy? Like, can you imagine being this eternal spirit, then all of a sudden you're in this little 8-pound flesh, and then literally the next thing you see is like this light, and they're clamping your head at the hospital in a sterile environment and like literally the mom is anesthetized, and then they're literally grabbing your head and poking you out into this 3D world. It's traumatic, to say the least. And then as soon as they take you out, then they literally rip you away from your mom, who you spent the last 9 months in. They put you in a sterile environment. And then depending on the life path you chose, you experience major depression, the dark night of the soul, where you have literally forgotten who you are. Why am I here? I don't know why I'm here. Or you experience betrayal from your best friend. You experience betrayal, or what you experience to be betrayal. You get kissed in the cheek by your best friend, or like, you know what I mean. Even your parents don't understand you, and like a lot of people like go through this traumatic events. And some of the greatest souls on the planet have allowed themselves to go through multiple dark nights of the soul. And this shit goes deep. Because eventually, if you continue on this path, you start realizing, just like they did in Dune 2, he realizes, oh, my grandfather was a Harkonnen. I carry that DNA strand. So some great souls actually allow themselves and choose to be born into certain lineages, that carry these strands, where they understand that if they have the ability to go through what they're going to go through, go into the darkness and take that Templar Melchizedek, if you want to call it, distorted DNA, 7 to 11 generations of trauma from the Illuminati or whatever it is, and mixed in with that DNA. And literally that's what the story of, Jesus is talking about. He leaves the 99 to find the one because of this great love of source. You're chilling an angel with the heaven, the archangels. Your oversoul is the archangel. Your soul is the angel. And then you're chilling as an avatar, ascended master, chilling in the primal light, primal sound. An ascended master is someone who's embodied their primal light and primal sound, existing in pure consciousness, massive quanta. And once you're an ascended master, you can choose to create new universes and new galaxies. But for some great love of source, they choose to send a portion of their quanta and to forget who they are, chilling in with the angels, you're the archangels, man. You made it, but you send that quanta and it descends down the 15th dimension, the primal light, primal sound. In the beginning, God said, sound becomes light, then light goes into the 15th dimension. The Rishi self comes down, 15, 14, 13th dimension, down into the avatar, liquid light version of yourself, 12, 11, 10, down into the oversoul. That's what people call archangels, the 9th, 8th, 7th, and then the soul, 6th, 5th, 4th, and then into the 3, 2, 1, third mental, emotional, physical body. And you're born, and there's a clamp, and it's pulling you out, and you don't remember who you are. And now you're going to go through this whole journey, but the stars are aligned, and you chose. And life really begins as soon as we realize and come to the awareness that I chose. I am not a victim. As long as I'm pointing my finger at anybody outside of me, my dad did this, but this happened, I'm powerless. I'm giving my power away because there's something outside of me that is affecting me, which I have no power over. But as soon as someone takes extreme responsibility, steps out of victim mode, and realizes on some level, I chose to be here on earth. I chose my parents on some level. I chose a specific reason for being here. I chose a specific life path. And I take 100% responsibility for my thoughts, where I'm at in my life. Every single lifetime that I've lived simultaneously has co-created my situation where I'm at now. And I take full responsibility for that. And in every single moment, they can try to take away our freedom. They can try to take away and, change the voting. And right, like whoever owns the voting polls, it's not who wins the ballot. It's whoever owns the voting polls and the electronics who controls, so I can't control some of those things, but God gave me the wisdom to understand what I can control. And what I can control right now in this present moment is my attitude. Thank you, God, my Lord, that I am alive. And as you go deeper and deeper through the dark night of the soul, you unplug from everything that doesn't serve you. Oh man, these friends, man, I thought they were my boys. I thought they were my homies, man. 16 of my finest friends. We went to Vegas, man. I put out for them, man. I thought we were brothers. And you come back from Vegas and you're like, damn. When shit hits the fan, you find out who the real ones are. And sometimes you go through the dark and you feel like you're Jesus in Gethsemane. You're crying out, driving down the 405, screaming and yelling, oh my God, why haven't you forsaken me? Your family shuts down your bank account, and you're like, I was just living from my heart. You didn't even ask me. And you're like, And then you step out of it and you realize, and you hear that still quiet voice, go to that yoga studio. It's time. Remember who you are. You're a star. And you're never alone on this journey. The first time I did ayahuasca in LA, I was just waking up. I had been through the dark night of the soul. And every time you go through the dark night of the soul, major depression, whatever you want to call it, you unplug from the things, the people, the food, the frequencies that no longer serve you. And you're left in the darkness alone. And it feels alone. And you have suicidal thoughts. You're like, why, what is my purpose? I'm lost. And in that place, and in that place only, you can start plugging into new beliefs, new attitudes, new words, new thoughts, things that do serve you. And it's a transition state in consciousness if you don't give up. And even if you do give up, energy is needed to create and destroy. Let's say you commit suicide, whatever it is, there's still a recycling of energy that continuously happens, and it's simultaneous. I wouldn't recommend that, by the way, if you want to advance and graduate Earth. And so, yeah, it's through these processes, through the dark night of soul, we start remembering who we are. And I want to also shout out, like, you did not come alone. When you decided to come, you have what is called spirit guides, energies that are always there with you. And the minute you reach out and there's a choice, you say, I want to know, I want to connect with my guides. I want to know the truth. I'm ready. Even with that intention and those words alone, if you're living out there, like they respond to that. And like literally it goes deep. You can hire some new guides, you can fire guides, right? You can literally work with your guides, right? You can say no to your guides, because ultimately it's you, your avatar Cristo self, that is co-creating your reality. So you did not come alone. And in one of my darkest days in LA, like I was sitting there and I could literally hear, like kind of in the Bible, remember in the Bible, like they were like, Samuel, Samuel. And the Samuel said, speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Well, I heard that. I was in my darkest time. I was about to give up. And I was there on my balcony in my apartment. I hear a voice, Samuel. And your higher self allows you to go through this whole step. And it's literally a process of, if you want to call it, enlightenment. And what does that even mean, enlightenment? Well, there's different ways to look at it. The hero's journey. But, the fourth, fifth, and sixth stranded DNA is the light body. It's a carbon crystalline, less dense version of you. And when every single cell is connected, and when you start intentionally connecting to your soul, your fourth, fifth, and sixth stranded DNA, which is a bandwidth of frequency, which stores your purpose, which is your superconscious mind, you quiet the mind through the breath and you intentionally connect to this part of you, it slowly starts sending in frequencies, and you start the processes of embodying, if you want to call it the new wine, the higher frequency of your soul starts coming into your body, and little by little, naturally, gradually, after the dark night of the soul, you start reaching out and connecting to intensely to this part of you. And you start embodying your soul, and little by little, naturally and gradually, every single cell gets the message that I am love. Love is the cohesive power of the universe. All 75 trillion cells, when they're in a frequency of complete presence and love, they start connecting with each other. Each electron micro transport system is sending off a little bit of light signal from the cells, and through the fascia and through the liquid surrounding the cells, it connects with each other, and all 75 trillion cells are connected. Love is the cohesive power of the universe that keeps that together. And when all of those cells are giving off light, then the organs start giving off light. All the organs are connected. Then that starts giving off light, and that is your auric field, your light body, enlightenment, embodying your soul, remembering who the fuck we are. And it's through these processes, and every single time you overcome something, for example, you overcome major depression, you come from a family, a religiously programmed family, you come from a lineage of Templar Melchizedek, you come from a lineage that had carrying DNA of the Illuminati, and you go through some shit because you're carrying that DNA, and it's your DNA that projects your hologram. But as you start connecting with your soul, and through, everything will come to the surface to be healed. Everything. And some of the greatest souls on the planet allow themselves to go through multiple periods of darkness because they believe and they know for this great love of source, their sacred why is strong enough. They know something deep inside of them. There's a hole in the soul that only the soul can fill, a hole in the heart, right? And they keep going. And every time they overcome something, they obtain the keys to the consciousness to be able to help someone else in the future who might go through depression. And it goes deep because if you realign certain DNA lineages that have fallen, that are, if you want to call it, hearkening, when someone breaks the 4-minute mile, there's a quantum potential where people all over are going to start. And so there's these, what we refer to as fallen angelics, what we refer to as Illuminati, what we refer to sometimes, a lot of spiritual people even hate these types of people. But eventually, if you keep going on the path, you're going to realize I am also that. Who am I? When Moses asked God, who are you? And he said, I am that I am. I am dark. I am light. And eventually we get to that point where if we start going into that and realizing that, instead of shunning that, instead of suppressing that, instead of repressing that, and realize that, hey, I am also that, and we start healing that aspect of our lineage 7 to 11 generations back and even deeper on the quantum field, we start paving a quantum potential, a bridge for the Harkonnens even, for Lucifer even, for the pedophile even, to cross through and to remember who the fuck we are. A star and a fallen star, all of it, and everything in between. And so that's the path of the hero's journey, little by little by little, connecting. And you could usually go through this period where, like, I think a lot of us go through this period where we're like, only listen to like music, like high frequency music, because we're like, that's all I want. I just want to feel like that all the time. I want to feel like, and so like you go to the restaurants that are only high frequency, you only listen to that Kundalini mantra music for like a period of 2-3 years or whatever it is. You start going to all the breath works, you start going to all the sound. It's a beautiful period. And it's like that time where we're literally embodying more of our frequencies and more of our souls. And little by little by little, though, whether it's in Kundalini yoga, whether it's in the breath work, whether it's in nature, whether it's in the ice bath, no matter what modality that you're utilizing, there comes a period and you have these peak experiences, right, where you start developing a knowing that I am that I am, and a deep trust that it's all good. And you let go of every single attachment to my mission, attachment to being a good man, attachment to being a good father, attachment to being whatever I've been programmed to believe that I have to be, attached to being successful. And you let go of every single attachment, and you start realizing deeper and deeper and developing this deep understanding and knowing that there's nothing that can separate me. Angels or demons, heaven or hell, from the great love. And everything is always working for the good of those who love. And I am this love, period. And that love, what we consider to be love, that frequency range starts expanding and expanding and expanding until it's one with all that is, but attached to nothing. And that's the path. And you have these peak experiences where you feel that and you know that, and you're just present and you're completely surrendered because you've developed this deep trust, like Jesus did when he was on the mountain. He would sit there and commune with what he called the Father. He was praying to the Giovanni Collective, and like literally like develop this trust that, hey, God is here and God is good, and I can completely let go, become no one, nothing, nowhere, no time. Connected to, attached to nothing, one with all, attached to nothing. Agape love. And if you make that your one and only pure desire, at one with all, unattached to anything, and there's a prayer in the 12-stranded DNA course that communicates in the original Anuhazi celestial light language and starts communicating that language. Let it be known that my one and only pure desire is eternal at one with original eternal source consciousness field and its divine eternal truth and divine eternal splendor. Dutu aun uatiun dientavo esta en deave tuenta esta avetos un. Se ayatavo son durutava et ablenkaho eten durutava eve yesha. Tava entu aya, all things flow from source. Tava atu aya, all things return to source. Tava akevo aya, all things are now bathing in source. U et rea, now and forevermore. Aya danuru epet mita, all separation from source is but an illusion. And as I started repeating that over and over again, my one and only pure desire is eternal at one with source. That's my one and only pure desire. And if you make that your one and only pure desire and you embody that and you speak that prayer into existence, into embodiment, to surround and activate your potential DNA into that reality, every other lesser desire will manifest in perfect divine right timing, harmony, and order. Because when you're at one with all and unattached to anything, source has permission, because I'm not attached to this timeline. I'm not attached to this idea. I'm not attached to this person at any given time, to send in all of the flows, energy flows from all quantum fields are open at all the time. And it can literally send in the exact right thing, exactly when you need it, perfect divine right timing, harmony, and order. And because I'm not attached to anything, I'm in perfect, complete trust, because I've spent that time getting to know the character of source. And I've spent that time understanding that I am source. And I've spent that time at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, when the melatonin is the highest, the door to the subconscious world is the thinnest, early morning sun gazing, breathing in the frequencies, connecting and embodying my soul, and understanding and realizing there is nothing that can separate me ever. And that's been ingrained into my subconscious mind. I am source. I am source, and nothing can change that. There's nothing I can do to make God love me more. There's nothing I can do to make God love me less. God is the energetic infrastructure that runs through all things in our people, and with every single breath, fulfilling the original intention of source. And this most epic love story. And you have these peak experiences where you're like, yo, I made it, mom, I'm good. And then it's like chop wood, carry water, fully human, fully divine. Jesus wept. You're still human. And that's the beauty of it. Continuously feel. Sometimes still forget. To remember again. And it's this beautiful, amazing dance and this hologram and simulation that we've created. And right now we're heading into this exciting period. We'll see what happens, pure potential, but an important inflection point in humanity's history. I mean, souls long time ago, in order to be quote unquote enlightened, they would have to wait outside. Not too long ago, like, in ancient India, like even like 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, like wait outside of a guru's doorstep and live in the temple for years, on 7 to 10 years, to receive one mantra, and that one mantra chanted continuously over and over again over a period of lifetimes maybe had the possibility to help you start those sounds, to activate your potential DNA, to help you start remembering who you are, to help you start becoming liberated so that you can graduate earth and escape samsara. But right now there's never been a greater time, because if you're hungry for the truth, all of these ancient mantras, technologies are starting to come to the forefront. And literally, if you just want to know, and right now in your heart intent, I want to know the truth. There's so many technologies. You can just do internet searches. You can get the online rapid 12-strand DNA online course. I've put out 12 mantras in the original light language, which I'm telling you, man, this course changed my entire destiny. And it's literally, I already had an opportunity to leave Earth. And like literally, I'm here on a bonus round, and a lot of us are, because we're literally here because we want to be here, because it's going to be such an exciting, amazing time in humanity's history. And eventually, through this path of being born and going through the dark night and going through darkness and remembering that you are the light, you come into this point. And what did Jesus, Krishna, Allah, and Buddha all have in common? They were all relaxed. Yeah, they went through the mania maybe when they were younger, hit that 9 or 10, and then everything that goes up will come down. They went through that depression, sweat, blood, whatever, literally, and then they realized, I am the dark, I am the light, and slowly their ups were a little less up, downs were a little less down, and they come to this point where they realize divine neutrality Yeah, 4, 5, 6 every once in a while, but they're so relaxed because they are in complete trust, because they spent that time embodying their soul, activating their light body, and realizing I am that I am, and I trust the character of Source so much, and I am this Source, that all things are always working for good. And so in this now moment, I can relax every single muscle in this amazing Source energy with every breath. The more I am relaxed, the faster it relaxes, and the electromagnetic frequency, the energetic infrastructure of what Jesus called the Father, starts flowing through, because the body is relaxed. The meridian points open up, the axial tonal lines are in alignment, and I become one with everything. And the person who's breathing and exhaling the slowest relaxes the deepest, and becomes aware of all of the subtleties, the little colors, the little sounds of the bees, the little things. And those are the frequency of God. And the more I relax and let go of the tension is who you think you are, relaxation is who you are, the more I drop into the present moment, because I know God is always working for the good. And I let go into the present moment and become more aware of the subtleties of God all around me in the most epic love story ever. God making love with God, sacred energy exchange, fulfilling the original intention of Source to understand and know itself better. And you are the hero on your hero's journey, and you are co-creating the most epic love story ever written. And Earth is coming to this important inflection point where the resonance is going to increase, and people are going to have a choice. They want to continue to abide by systems that are dense, that are based on density, that are based on scarcity, that are based on false evidence appearing real, that are like stepping on another person to get to know, or the original intention of Source. Am I going to oscillate into what some people call the new Earth frequencies? And who knows exactly how that's going to manifest and materialize, but like where things are transparent, respect, unity, free will, choice, where we get to dance and play in a system that is decentralized, where you realize that you are who you've been looking for the whole damn time. And there's never been a greater time to be alive, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And so I want to end with this story of Zacchaeus, right? Zacchaeus had short man syndrome, right? He was probably born to, a family. And somewhere as a child, when his mind was open from, the ages of 0 to 7, in his subconscious mind, he developed the idea that somehow he was going to go for money. He was going to become a tax collector. He was going to become respected. So probably somewhere in there, this drive for love, this drive, that's what it is, really. That's all people, the world is dying for a starvation of love. And they think that if they get money, that they're going to have this love, but there's a hole that only the soul can fill. And so he worked his hard. He probably made it through the schoolings, performed well, and he was driven, and he probably hated it when people slapped him on the head, and it motivated him even more. And he worked and worked and worked, and he became a tax collector. And he started understanding the world of hustling, and he started understanding how to hustle. And he started scheming and taking people's money, and he became rich, and he wore the best clothes, and he had a nice crib. But after all that was said and done, there was still a hole that could not be satisfied. And that's the thing. This 26,500 year dark period for humanity doesn't matter. You can try to fill it with money. You can try to fill it with anything that the world has to offer, materialism things, status, fame. I used to work in, West LA as a psychiatrist, and the people who had it all, house on the mansion, Hollywood Hills, everything. They were some of the most depressed people on the fucking planet, because there's a hole that only the soul can fill. Your higher self is the matching jigsaw piece puzzle for what you've been looking for. Take a look inside, and you will find that Zacchaeus had a hole. He achieved everything he wanted to achieve. And he heard something. He overheard that there was the dude. He was performing miracles. And people were changing, and people that he used to know, he saw them, and they were different. Something was different about them. The frequency was different. Something had shifted, and he started hearing it in this, the murmur of the crowd. And he was like, yo, oh shit, this guy, he's coming through my town. And something inside of him was curious. And he took action on that curiosity. He opened his mind and his heart to the possibility and the potential that maybe perhaps this person could help me. And he climbed, right? He went out there. He was short. He couldn't see, and Jesus was coming through. He was popular at this time because, like, he was doing miracles, right? And the people, and where there's miracles, people are like, come, and they wanted to, like, bring the sick people to him. And he was walking through the town, and Zacchaeus climbed up the tree. He was short. Napoleon syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And he was sitting there, and he was waiting, and he was looking, and here comes Jesus. And Jesus had spent time, like, you know what I mean, on the mountain the other night, connecting with his soul, gaining information beyond space or time. And he knew there was Zacchaeus was going to be there. He knew Zacchaeus. And all these people, like, asking for whatever, like clamming around Jesus, asking for Zara, giving him superficial love for all the miracles that he did or whatever. And he comes straight through, he walks straight through that town, and he comes to the tree where Zacchaeus is. He looks Zacchaeus in his eye. And when he looks Zacchaeus in his eye, there's an electromagnetic frequency coming from Jesus's heart, 5 to 15 feet in all directions. There's the electromagnetic frequency coming from Zacchaeus. And he takes one look into the eyes, and he feels Jesus's heart. And what you have activated, you can share if there's a reciprocal understanding and agreement. And so perhaps in that moment, Jesus, produces a quantum field. Yeheshua, Yod-He-Shin, Vav-He-Shin, changes the perception in that moment. The perception is a frequency filter, right? And the kingdom of heaven radiating from Jesus's heart, right? And he creates that field around Zacchaeus, where Zacchaeus is already perfect, healthy, healed, whole, and complete. There's nothing wrong with him. And in that moment, everything that he had done in the past, what people call sin, was already forgiven. It didn't even exist. And in that field, he feels something. And it shifts something. And not only that, then Jesus looks him in the eye, and he says, the eyes are the window to the soul, right? And he looks at him. There's absolutely no judgment, and piercing straight, he sees him, his soul. And he says, Zacchaeus, man, come down. I'm coming to your crib tonight. And the story goes that something happens at that dinner party. I don't know, maybe Jesus like activated substrands of Zacchaeus' soul, his DNA strand, and there was an agreement, and he felt his soul for the first time. He felt love for the first time. And this part of his heart, there was a hole for his whole life, lack of love from his father, and only receiving love when he would be perfect. And he thought that money could fill, he thought that woman could fill, he thought that silk robes could fill, and it was never filled. But in that moment, something shifts, and he feels something in the presence of Jesus. And something shifts, and he stands up and he says, yo, everything I've taken from the poor, I'm going to give 4 times back. He changes his mind. And that hole in the soul is filled. And who knows what he did after that? I don't know. But in that moment, he comes into enlightenment, because in that moment, he realizes he falls in love. Connection. Pure presence, enlightenment. Once you realize that we are all one and love is the cohesive power in the universe, and not only do you realize it, you feel it, you know it, that God is good, that there's an energy that flows everything, that God is not only good, God is bad, God is everything, and God is in control, that the immutable laws of the universe, for every action there's a reaction, and God is just, because everything and every choice that we have made leads us into this present moment now, and that universe is always working for me, not against me. God is always working for the good of those who love. And I spent that moment in the heart protocol where I catalyzed, and I felt that love, and I know that love to be true. And even though if I can't feel it all at all times, I know that this force is within me, for me, through me, all around me. And something shifts in Zacchaeus in that dinner, where he realizes that, and he drops into the present moment. He drops into the love, and he drops into the knowing it's all good. And he lets go. And he feels that eternal conscious ecstasy of the present moment, God making love with God. And it changes him, it shifts him, and he drops into enlightenment. And that is the quickest way to enlightenment, is the moment that you realize and know and understand God is good. Even with the fallen angels, even with what's going on with everything around you, it's perfect. The most epic love story ever written, where people get to choose, where death is not even real. It's a transition state in consciousness. And even those people who choose to abide by a 3D dense system, even those people who have raped, even those people who are pedophiles, even those people are serving their own purpose and their unique life path. And he who is forgiven much can love much. And I am all of that. And there's a perfection to the divine play and the simulation, and we get to co-create whatever it is and play the game with fun and joy, and we get to drop into the present moment with a deep understanding and knowing that it's all good, it's all God, and God is the energetic infrastructure that runs through all things and all people, and drop into the eternal conscious ecstasy of the now and experience the feelings. Experience the grief, experience the sadness, experience God, making love with God. And in that moment, something shifts and we realize and we come into enlightenment, the present moment. And sometimes we forget and then we remember again and we come back until we realize through this deep trust and this deep knowing that is developed with what Jesus called the Father. It's a continuous unfoldment, a continuous ceremony, a continuous embodiment of God, making love with God. And shout out to all the brave souls who've chosen to be born for this amazing, beautiful inflection point in humanity's history. The high priestesses, I witness you, I honor you. The kings, the sacred kings, the magicians, the fairy nations. Yeah, I know, right? We're all here. The 144,000 have arrived, and all the demons. Shout out to you. You're playing your perfect part too. Shout out to Brother Lucifer, who's playing his perfect part too, who agreed to that life path and who's playing it out so that we can fulfill the original intention of Source and increase the knowledge of the One and bring back that living record book, embody our soul, embody our oversoul, embody our avatar, Christo self, and embody our primal light and primal sound and it's simultaneously happening right now and in this now moment. And even those who choose to return to Source's space hole, black dust space hole, through a black dust space return with no incarnational memory of its existence, is still Source, is still part of Source. Space dust. We were made from the dust, the space dust. That's how universes and galaxies are formed. And ascended masters can now take that space dust and create new universes and new galaxies and infuse breath into it and consciousness and awareness. All things flow from Source. All things return to Source. All things are now bathing in Source, and all separation from Source is but an illusion. All right, my beautiful, beautiful divine souls. God is good. God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good. I am love. I am light. I am darkness. I am fallen. I am everything and everything in between. I am that I am. See you in the next now. Love, light, peace, and truth to all sentient beings. Peace.